Gonna record. Welcome all. Thanks for being here. Um, we have a meeting today that I'm really excited about to learn about data systems that are in different phases of development in the pipeline. And this is, you know, not a really formal presentation. So this is a friendly group. We're sort of data nerds, really wanting to learn about what's going on. There are a lot of people in the space who have been in the development in different phases of development of data systems, and what are the lessons that we are able to learn from each other, and um, really this opportunity for collaboration, information sharing, and just learning about what's going on. There's so much cool stuff that's happening, and so just wanting to be able to share some of the exciting and frustrating things that are going on. Um, because we have so much on the agenda, let's do introductions in the chat. Just your name and organization, agency, position as appropriate. And yeah, really excited to hear a little bit. And we're going to hear from Ann Dillenbeck about Children's Integrated Services, from Carolyn about CDD-IS Phase 2, and then hear from Dana about the Department of Mental Health. I don't even know the name of it. I'm embarrassed to say. Uh, the Children in Residential Care.
Yes, that's fine.
Awesome. And then about the Family Services Division Comprehensive Child Welfare Information System from Carly. So, Anne, if you're willing to kick us off, the floor is yours. Feel free to screen share, or we can just talk. Yeah, go for it. Thank you.
If Anne is speaking, I can't hear a word she's saying.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I was muted. That's kind of silly.
Thank you.
Can anyone see? Are you seeing the initial slide? I just wanted to check. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So thank you for the invitation to share about this. As Dora said, very eager for suggestions, recommendations, input, and also I'm glad to share about it because the CIS data system has been something that's been a policy recommendation from BBF. It's been on the Vermont Early Childhood Advocacy Alliance's agenda, a legislative agenda, and is something that we hear about in almost every single meeting that, that CIS holds. So it's a big deal for us and for our the CIS professionals and clients and families, and for the state. So here we go. Just as a quick reminder, CIS incorporates 4 sets of services pictured here, and the flower is a graphic to illustrate that the services can be integrated as needed around a family or client, acknowledging that CIS serves early childhood education and after-school programs, as well as pregnant and postpartum people and families with young children. But for communication purposes, we just put family at the center because that's really what it's all about. So to let you know where we are today, I wanted to just review. We're facing a bit of a challenge. That's not new news. So right now, CIS functions with a variety of systems, from paper to SharePoint, web-based, not SharePoint, Salesforce, sorry, web-based data systems to track and share and report CIS data, including at the state level using a pretty old now, I think 2017 was maybe the year that it was developed, a Microsoft Access database that was sort of grandfathered in because I don't think this is really the way state data is stored and works anymore, but particularly for early intervention data. And since 2013, and some of you have been part of or know about these attempts, there have been at least 4 attempts to build a CIS data system. I shouldn't say build because not all of them got to that point. And the first one being the most significant, where a system was built and there was training going on in the regions when we realized, or the state team, I guess, realized there were security concerns. It didn't meet the state standard. And so I think that's one of the big things, is to protect personal health information. Client, we want that to be safe, and we want to be able to do the sharing and have real-time data visibility that will allow the collaboration that we want to happen. I think capacity at the state level has also been a challenge in carrying this forward. So, starting down the road and realizing CIS is pretty complicated. It takes a lot of time to set the business requirements, and the landscape keeps changing, et cetera, et cetera. And also, where does this data system fit? Does it fit with, I think there was an effort at one point when Terry Edgerton was the CIS director to look at CMS, which was it was too big of a project. So should it be part of a very big system, be a smaller system? How do we set it in the context? So given that background, we maintain the goal of seeking a unified data management system that improves things for children, families, and programs, as well as reporting in order to do continuous quality improvement. So just acknowledging what I just said, we've been here before. It's hard to feel like, are we going down this road again? And it's a new opportunity. We have new leadership in CDD and in the state, and we can take all that we've learned and all the documentation that has been left for us by people who have worked on it before, and move it forward into a new adventure as a new team. So trying to keep a growth mindset about it. And really what keeps me, and I think all of us working on the system going, is the vision for CIS, that whether you're a pregnant and postpartum person, a child, birth through age 12, really an early childhood education program or after school program or staff program, and you're accessing CIS, I want you to have one plan with a primary service coordinator. And CIS has successfully put lots of things in place to achieve that. We have one fiscal agent in each region. We have one CIS coordinator in each region. We have 3 regional teams, intake and referral, consultation, and administrative teams to help things go smoothly. Lots of ways for collaboration and coordination to happen. And this additional piece of infrastructure will really allow for real-time sharing between service providers and supervisors and CIS coordinators to make sure they're not asking families or clients to tell their stories again, that they're building on other data gathering efforts, you can imagine all the benefits of having, I know this group knows about that. So where are we now? We are working with the Agency of Digital Services. We have 2 business analysts who are really wonderful. Keith Williams, CIS State Director, and I are working, as well as other members of the CIS State team, with the ADS folks and have the support of CDD leadership. And we're also having meetings with regional CIS subject matter experts, SMEs. People have come forward and said they're willing to give their time once again to inform this system. And the idea is to lay out the business's processes and requirements that would go into a request for proposal for someone or a company or whatever to design and build this data system. So we've done, the orange is what we've done. So we have made progress in mapping out these activity diagrams are really complicated of how things works across multiple agencies and sets of services, and they're beautiful. We've taken into account reporting. We've looked at interfaces with other systems that would be ideal and that are technically possible. We know there are lots of hurdles to get to that kind of information sharing. We've shared all of the activity diagrams with our regional subject matter experts. They've given our input and their input, and we've made changes according to that. We have a glossary that we're continuing to add to. Blue is where we are right now. We're laying out the user stories, which those of you who have done it, and Carolyn may address this too, with CDDIS, it takes quite a while. And the final thing would be to develop the RFP. So this is my last slide. Where we're going now is to continue to support, which is really important, what's in place. So regions need support to keep what they're doing going. Some regions have made quite an investment in building their own data systems so that they can share at least within their region across agencies and among providers. The access database I talked about for EI, it has limited functionality, and so we have to commit capacity on the state team for that, etc. Keep all that going and implement CIS as well as we can, despite the challenge. Secure funding and obtain approval to post the RFP when it's ready, and enter into a contract to build the system. We need to continue to engage stakeholders, those who are delivering CIS, as well as all of you and everyone who's interested in the early childhood system broadly, and getting this piece in place. And then think about system maintenance and adjustments that need to happen as we go forward. So I will share my slides with Dora and BBF, and they can be part of the notes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anne. It's great to hear a little bit more about what is happening. I know there have been lots of efforts, and this has been a recommendation from this committee and from the State Advisory Council to be able to share for all of the reasons, right? And in order to improve the outcomes around for children, families, and the system. Any questions we have time for a few questions for Anne, and we can also come back at the end as we're hearing from some other folks.
And we have some other CDD people here that can help too.
Emily.
Hi, Anne. Thank you. This looks like really exciting work. I'm so happy for y'all that this is moving forward. I was really curious about the diagrams that you mentioned and if those would be something that could be applicable outside of this space. I think we've all had our own challenges in understanding how all of our systems work together, how different regions operate from other regions. And I'm curious if some of those diagrams could be used as communication tools as well. At least, you know, if not public facing, at least like to our collaborative partners.
Interesting. That's a great question, something that we haven't thought about, and I definitely will take it back to the team and to CDD. I agree. You know, I don't think they will be publicly posted
No.
because there are, you know, you need some knowledge to be able to read them. But with our most immediate partners, they may be useful. So thank you. Carolyn or Eric, Renee, anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I think I would just caution if the diagrams are going to be used in the RFP, we probably can't release them until the RFP is released, just because it does give, just for fairness of all parties involved, we would want to keep those until the formal RFP is released. But if it's not part of the RFP, then Anne, I would totally leave it up to your discretion to share.
I think the intention is for them to be, so thank you for speaking up, Carolyn, and you know, we can keep that idea for later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the mapping challenges, we talk so much about mapping the early childhood system and how all of these things are networked and embedded. And so having a documentation of those interplays is going to be what would be, again, down the road, could be a helpful tool.
Yeah, any way that this work could be helpful would be great.
Yeah, let's not reinvent the wheel. Absolutely. Okay, Carolyn, do you want to take over and talk a little bit about phase 2?
Sure. I feel like I need to just mention a little bit about phase 1, if that's okay, to jump into phase 2. And I'm gonna actually steal a presentation that I did to the legislatures for you folks to share with you, and it shouldn't be too long. And let me share my screen here. Let's see. Can you just let me, can folks see that? Yes, cool. All right. So CDDIS, and I'm sorry if I'm ignorant to what you folks know and don't know, so please feel free to stop me or be like, we totally know that, just move on. So Child Development Division Information System. I'm just going to talk about where we were, where we are, and where we're going, which is the phase 2 piece of it. Well, all of you know basically that we had Bright Futures Information System that we used for 25 plus years. It currently houses the licensing unit and our provider workforce data. We have moved on, and I'll talk about that with the Child Care Financial Assistance Program into our phase 1. But we're moving off of BFIS because it's outdated, it's no longer vendor supported, and it's just inadequate for the things that we need it for these days. It's prone to errors, limited capacity to take on new functionality. And as a result, we're not able to do some federally mandated changes that we need. And it's really hard to do legislative directed changes as well. So we started planning back in 2018. We work very closely with our Agency of Digital Services. And so, like I said, phase 1 or module 1, kind of interchangeable, is our eligibility determination for the subsidy program, and pays our providers directly out of the system into our vision system, which then sends them the money. We have a contract with a company named Bright Systems. It's on a Salesforce platform if there's any techies out there. And we went live on July 3rd of 2022. We went live with what's called the minimum viable product, not most valuable player. And we went live with kind of what the minimum that we needed. So that's why we are in an extension of kind of phase 1. We're kind of finishing up the work along with many other mandated items that we've had come at us through the past couple of years. So, and those are kind of, here's a slide that illustrates the things that we've had to do while building CDDIS. Is the Act 76 changes, we've had new federal rules, we've been fixing bugs, we've been trying to make things a little bit easier for eligibility workers, for parents, for providers, incorporating some constructive feedback that we've got. So pretty busy with phase one in the past couple of years. Here's some facts. So it's been 2.5 years since we've gone live, almost hitting the 3-year mark. Our projected end date is April. I will let you know that probably will be extended for a few more months. And we've currently spent about $5 million on the project to date. Where we're going, phase two. So we are creating the request for proposals right now, which is the RFP. And that is slated to go out the middle of April. It will include our child care provider case management system, which will be integrated with phase one, which is the child care licensing, management, program licensing and renewal. We're looking to do a complaint and compliance management, which is a enhancement of what we have now. The ability to meet federal compliance, user friendliness for parents, providers, and staff, the ability to make changes much more quickly than we can with BFIS. And we are also looking to include the child care provider and staff credentialing management system, excuse me, which is workforce management and continued learning management. So yeah, that's kind of where we're going. And quick presentation, but yeah, that's kind of what I had to share. Like I said, the RFP will be going out in the middle of April, which will incorporate all the details of what we're looking for. So I really can't actually kind of get into the details of that. Like I said, along with kind of Anne talking about her RFP. Now that we are really in the RFP release, it's kind of closed lipped on things. Just, you know, the ability of companies to get the upper edge on things that we're looking for and wanting to do is something that we are not allowed to speak to in detail. But I'm happy to take questions and answer them if I can.
Thank you for that overview and what's included, where we've been, where we're going.
Yeah, happy to.
Any questions? Is some of this currently housed at like Northern Lights, or is it all in BFIS and that then Northern Lights is extracting the
Yes.
workforce side of things?
Yeah, so it is in BFIS. They do have another system that they use to do some of their stats and reporting and a little bit of their management as well. And, you know, it depends on whether we will incorporate that into the new system or Northern Lights will keep their system on and we'll have an integration that will be all part of the RFP process and how that sugars out. So. But all the information is in BFIS and they extrapolate that and do some reporting and monitoring.
Great. Okay, let's hear from Dana if you're
Sure.
ready.
I am.
Can you just introduce yourself
yes,
also
I was going to start with that in order to give people context, because I feel like my presentation is going to be a little different, not quite as well. I don't have slides or anything like that. But so I'm Dana Robson. I'm the operations chief in the children's unit at the Department of Mental Health. And one of the parts of my job is that I'm one of the co-chairs for something called the Case Review Committee, which is the committee. It's a subcommittee of the state interagency team. And it is the committee that approves all residential referrals for kids referred to residential treatment by DCF, DMH, or DAIL. AOE can do some placements as well, but the vast majority of kids who go to residential come through one of the 3 AHS departments. And so the case review committee is made up of members from all of those departments, from AOE, because they have to approve the education portion of any treatment, and then also a family member, somebody from substance use, the Division of Substance Use Programs, and anyway. So this is, I'll say, I started at DMH 19 years ago. And at that time, we tracked all of the data for kids who needed this higher level of care in these big paper binders. And at, I think in 2012, we started keeping all of the data about all of these kids in a spreadsheet that has grown ginormous over the years. So in the time that I've been at DMH, we have not once, but 3 times in the past tried to work on projects. This is such an exercise in knowing how the state works. This is such a small project, but so important. We really wanted to develop a much more accurate way of tracking the data about all these kids, because it's so vitally important to understand, you know, what are the needs? Where are we sending these kids? What are the gaps? What are we missing in this high-end system of care? So we have tried 3 times to develop a database, and every single time it failed for one reason or another, usually funding or something. We just couldn't move forward with it. And so a couple of years ago, when the state got enhanced FMAP funds during COVID, one of the projects we put forward that we really wanted to fund was to create a database to track data about these kids. So the reason, and so that is what I've been working on for the last year and a half. So I'm going to share actually just briefly one of the things that we put out right now with that data is something, a quarterly report, and I'll just show it briefly because I think it, you seeing that? Nope. Share. Is that working?
That looks much better.
All right, there we go. So we put out on a quarterly basis a regional report about data about the kids who are accessing residential care, and it includes, I'm going to show you what it includes just briefly. So we put out state data that shows some of the trends about the numbers of kids, which departments are sending kids to residential treatment, length of stay, whether they're going to in-state programs versus out-of-state programs, children who have had a prior residential treatment, the families of origin that kids are coming from. The reason this is important is it shows us trends like that. We've seen an increase in the number of kids who come from adoptive families that need residential treatment. And a lot of that's not surprising. These are kids who've experienced a lot of trauma. It doesn't necessarily surprise it, but it gives us information about what services are important. And for context, we officially could send kids from 0 to up through the age of 22. We go past 18. Kids can be served through the children's system, both DMH, DCF, and Dale. The reason we brought it here, by the way, to BBF, I should have said this in the beginning. The youngest kid I think we've ever sent to residential treatment was 5 years old, but we do definitely have a number of 6, 7, and 8-year-olds who are accessing this level of care. So length of stay, it's an odd one, but and then state demographics. Here's age groups. 0 to 12 population is about 1/3 of the kids we send to residential. By race, And then we have some brief information about presenting needs and in terms of, presenting behaviors, aggression, self-harm, suicidality, sexually harmful behaviors, that kind of stuff, information about developmental disabilities. And then we do all of the same data broken down by regions. And this goes out to pretty much everybody. And the idea is that regions could, on a semi-annual basis, that they could look at this data and look at what are they missing in their own communities. What things might they want to try and develop. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. So all of this information is kept in the spreadsheet, which I'm going to say, so we keep it. So I'm going to say we try so hard to ensure the accuracy of that database, of that data. But when you're dealing with a giant spreadsheet that we've been keeping since 2012, it gets more and more cumbersome. And I'll be honest, I worry sometimes about the quality of some of that data. Additionally, we wanted to be able to better track some of the behavioral information and demographic information that we have about some of these kids, as well as it has gotten harder and harder as the capacity in our state and in other states has decreased in terms of the available beds. We wanted to be able to do better tracking of where we're having to send kids, how many, what it's taking to try and find places that have available beds. Anyway, so that is what we are hoping to do with this database. It adds in some categories. It hopefully will increase the quality of the data, and it will increase our quality to do more sophisticated analysis of that data. So we've been working on this with ADS for the last year and a half. We've done all the stuff that Anne was talking about, the creating user stories, doing it. I am past that now. And they are about to start testing our new database, and our hope is that it goes live on July 1st. That's what we are shooting for. And so that is where we are at. So I don't know if people have any questions, but I'm happy to answer them if they do. We're almost there. I can't believe it. 19 years, I'm not kidding. I've been working on this since 2012, fourth time. So excited, it's hard to speak. Yeah, we post the residential data report. We posted it on the DMH website quarterly. I will say that the second quarter data for this year, fiscal year, is a little late because our person who pulls the report together for us was on medical leave for a little while, but they're back and they're working on it. So hopefully it'll be posted soon, but it's regularly posted.
Dina, congratulations on all the progress you're made, be it testing.
I know, we are almost at testing. Like I got an email the other day saying, we're trying to get you the link so you can start testing. I was unbearably excited. Sad, but exciting. All right. Thank you.
This is great to hear. And as you, there's so many parallels between all of these things, right? There's either a system that hasn't been functioning and is like really a barrier, or it's in a spreadsheet, and all of the sort of vision for why we want these data systems to exist and how long it takes and how many trials there have to be. I think it's really helpful, and now there's this connection, right? And what are the lessons that that you all can learn from each other, that we can all be learning, so that we're not recreating the wheel. There's so much that's going on that's siloed, and we're all like trying to move forward these pieces. And what's the shared piece of it that we're able to leverage? Really appreciate you coming and sharing.
No problem. I love talking about it. It's so exciting.
It really is. I know you were saying like I was so excited about a testing email. Like that's really exciting. You're
We've never
among fellow.
We have never gotten this far before. I can't tell you how many times I've had discussions about user case stories. Here's my one piece of advice. Like, when you create those, never give them up. Save them somewhere that you will never lose them, because then if the thing doesn't go through, the next time you try and start this process, you've got that to refer to, as we did. Yeah, it's actually sort of funny.
Practical advice. Okay, last but not least, Carly. We've heard a little bit over time, but it felt like this wouldn't have been I mean, it's not a complete presentation or picture. There's so many systems that are in different phases of development, but this is one that this committee has been tracking over time and just looking for an update.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting sitting here and like feeling the, I feel it right, is it like the stages of grief or stages of denial? So much of what we heard just feels like the stages of system development and implementation, and we all like go through them at different times, but they're all there. The anxiety around how do we get there, how many times do we have to try. Yeah, I think family services is, we feel that very, very close to heart. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Okay, make you all bigger. All right, so are you seeing PowerPoint? Thumbs up. Great. So perfect, thank you. Yeah, so I'm Carly Thibault here from Family Services, and I'm the Quality Assurance Administrator for Family Services. I'm going to talk a smidge about, just very, very briefly, a couple of our current systems, just in case there's anyone here who isn't as familiar with them, but focus more on the RFP phase and where we're at right now with bringing a comprehensive child welfare information system to Family Services. So we really work with two primary databases. Our main data collection system is the Social Services Management Information System, SSMIS, and it is 42 years old. It's officially the oldest child welfare data collection system in the US. So it's not, not a statistic we really like to be on top for, but here we are. It houses the majority of our demographic information for the cases that we are working with. It assigns cases, our case types. It holds some of our abuse information, foster parent licensing, as well as foster parent payroll. That is a key piece of this system, and one that results in, $50+ million annually. And so a lot runs through this system. What it doesn't capture, though, is really anything that kind of helps the case management aspect of our work at Family Services. We're not able to enter kind of mental health diagnosis, physical diagnosis, any kind of diagnosis information. There's one field, it's not updated well, and it doesn't really then translate anywhere else. So really case planning information, kind of the heart and soul of what we do in Family Services, we're not able to put into here. Some of that then does become captured in our slightly newer system, our FSD net, or the Family Services Division net. This is really thought of as our case note system, as well as where we store most of our intake and investigation information. So when we're getting calls of abuse, neglect, or delinquency, we are entering it into this system. And workers who are holding cases are also able to enter case notes into the system. That's what the example on the screen is what it might look and feel like to be a worker entering a case note for family members. I think similarly, what's not contained in here is case planning information. It really is just these case notes. You can't easily extract information out of it. Requires an IT ticket and kind of a word search, which results in very little usable information coming out to help kind of tell the story or context of what we might be experiencing. This system does integrate with some other systems that we actually heard a little bit about earlier today. So one of the places that this system connects back to is within CDD, the Child Development Division. Our staff are able to enter a protective services agreement, which then sends over to CDD and lets them know that we are now working with a family, and offsets or kind of reduces some of the costs related to childcare. This is especially helpful with our children in custody. And so that is kind of an automated function and a way that we connect with one of our other divisions, though it's pretty limited beyond that. And I think that is a huge hope of ours in the future, is to be able to integrate our systems in a much more efficient way, both within family services and within DCF. So where we want to go, and this is where you've heard more me speak about, is a comprehensive child welfare information system. This is the kind of most recent iteration of our child welfare systems, as endorsed by the federal government. There's no state or jurisdiction that has a fully implemented CWIS system at this time, though there are many that have partially implemented systems, that are much closer to full implementation. But no one is all the way there yet, because it's a significant amount of work. And I think something else that is kind of key to note is that Vermont, being where we're at and having the system that we've had for so many years, makes this a even bigger of a lift, because many other states and jurisdictions chose to implement a SACWIS system, right? So it's like the next iteration after after SSMIS, whereas we stayed with SSMIS. So we're having to cover so much more ground in terms of automation, data transformation, than many of the other states and jurisdictions going through this right now. So I'm excited to announce that the RFP just went live about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, actually. So similar to some of the other folks who presented today, Family Services has tried many times to get to the RFP stage related to CWIS. I think I've been around for 2 iterations. One of them was when I first kind of started in central office back in, I believe it was 2017, 2018. At that point, we were doing vendor demos, but what we didn't have was any of the money to actually kind of move forward with a new system, and it died out at that point. Fast forward to a few years ago, where we really were able to revive this conversation to say, hey, we are kind of limping along with our current systems, and we know we can do better. And so we have been able to make a lot of progress. It's taken so much time to get there, because again, it's a full system. We're running with very few resources in terms of the actual project team. Everyone is also fully dedicated to their full-time work, in addition to then being part of the CWIS team. And then last March, we were able to put out our first version of the RFP for this round. We had that out. We received bids in May of last year. And at the time that we received bids, we noted that there were a couple errors with how the scoring tables were laid out. And with that in mind, as well as kind of a hope to maybe make some additional adjustments that would bring a new system closer to meeting our needs, the decision was made by DCF and ADS to pull that RFP back and make some changes. And we were able to do that through partnering with some of our community providers. The Office of Child, Youth, and Family Advocate worked closely by our side during that process. And we attended a workshop that they had suggested for us in order to think about how to reshape this RFP. And we worked closely with our federal technical assistance team. We meet with them monthly and more if we need to. And the things that we were really looking to shift, one, we were wanting to correct those scoring inconsistencies, but we really wanted to shift to a more modular approach, knowing that we do not have full funding for this project yet. So I think our first RFP was written in a way that sort of implied a big bang, right? We will only work with the vendor if you can meet update all of the modules, and we're updating them all at the same time. And something that we found was that we really needed to adjust that and create it in a way where it would allow vendors to provide pricing at a modular level. And we wanted to be clear that it could be we need to piece this together, right? Implement 1 or 2 modules at a time. And that could come from one vendor or it could come from more. So we really shifted in that way to make us a bit more agile. I think for the Agency of Digital Services, they're primarily able to provide an agile waterfall approach as it comes to developing a new system. I won't pretend to be able to speak much further than that to that piece of it, but I've just kind of sat in enough of the meetings with them to really understand what we're able to do here in family services with the support of the Agency of Digital Services. So in the PowerPoint, and I'll make sure to share this as well, I've included the link to the website where the RFP is posted. It's within our buildings and general services. And then also the link to the RFP itself, but noting that there are kind of supporting documents that will be found within the website. So that the second link here is not the only RFP related document. There are other documents that went along with it. We are anticipating to get bids back by kind of middle of May. And between now and then, we have built in some different steps that allow vendors to have a little bit more contact with us than we would normally have during an RFP process, or not that we would normally have, but then I think, family services or other divisions may tend to do. ADS suggested a bidders conference. I think there's another project throughout the state who just did that recently, and it was pretty helpful. And so that allows the vendors to meet with all of us, kind of the core project team, and ask some questions in a way that we're all together, and really kind of be a little bit more hands-on as opposed to what we did in the last iteration of the RFP last year, which is vendors were able to send us questions, and we're still doing that, right? You can send us questions and we are going to respond to those questions. But this is sort of a part 2 of that is, we are going to respond and we're going to hold the conference where we can talk a little bit more. So we're hoping that also kind of gives us a little bit more information about either maybe what we didn't speak well enough to in the RFP, or, just other things that might come up during that time. So I think that'll be interesting, and I'll definitely report out kind of how that goes if others are interested in doing something like that. So more to come later this summer, and we hope to be scoring vendor bids, through May and June. We suspect that there are going to be vendor demos. Once we narrow that scoring down and kind of have a top 3, top 5, we're going to ask those vendors to provide demos to us. And then ideally would be kind of under contract later this year. I think fall is a realistic-ish timeline with a very large asterisk, because what we know is that things move so slow, again, mostly because of the capacity of all of us to really kind of move it forward in the ways that we would hope to be able to do. But, best case scenario, we are under contract with a vendor by the end of this year, by later this year, and really can start moving more into the kind of the design phase as opposed to just the planning. So I have anything after? Oh yeah, and so I wanted to include in here the modules that we have indicated. So there are, our federal partners kind of have a list of modules that we can pick and choose from. And we've identified that we want to make sure we cover all of these, though if there are other modules that vendors think might be beneficial, we are open to that. But so we're looking to have intake investigations, case management being one of the largest ones. That is really where we are going to see the biggest impact to our staff. And that's where, so much automation is going to happen. Resource management, think about that as our foster parents, so foster licensing, payroll, foster care payroll would run through that. We'd be looking at having our eligibility stuff through there. So a lot of our federal 4E reporting, our finance module, a report module so that we can be getting reports from this new system, and then an appeals module. So that's when we have intakes that may have been substantiated, and folks are appealing those. So that's the work that falls under our Commissioner Registry Review Unit. So we know that we won't have enough money right now. We have between state and federal funds, I think a little under 6 million or 16 million, which is exciting. It's more than we've had. And we know that we likely won't have all of it at the time that we're ready to really dive further. So we've identified that case management is one of our big priorities, resource management, as well as in the finance, because we really want to one, reduce the impact to our staff, and really support retention. And what we know is they frequently kind of talk about the challenges of our systems as being reasons for them leaving. And we want to make sure that that all of our kind of federal and state funding is much more stable and secure than it is now, as it's running through our very old system that's requiring a lot of support to keep it moving. So I think, you know, we'll see what we get. Last time we had 11 or 12 vendors submit bids. So that was last year. We suspect most of them will submit bids again, though we're hoping that maybe there are other ones as well. Just knowing that we have made a few changes, some of which came from through feedback from the vendor community after we had posted it the first time, especially around timelines, right? They felt like we didn't give them enough time to respond. So we increased that this time, to knowing that this is a huge body of work, and we want them to feel like they have enough time to really respond, because some of them send bids 900 plus pages. So we'll have a lot of summer reading to do, and hopefully I can share more later this year.
Thanks so much, Carly. It's great to see some of the specifics and, you know, the modular approach, and to hear the priorities for that and reasoning behind. And again, the congratulations on getting the RFP out. You know, major milestones going on across some of these projects. So super exciting to hear about. Questions or comments?
Terry, I have a question. Carly, sorry. Is it built into your RFP that the system will be able to talk to, have interfaces with any other systems?
Yes, thank you. I meant to mention that, but yeah, so we have an architect on the team from ADS, the project architect, and his role is to really identify those connections and make sure that they are documented within the RFP. So that is something absolutely any place where our system links back, either whether it be in-house to a different division or department, or to some of our external vendors, right? So we have a contract with Kansas University with their results-oriented management platform, which is a kind of data analysis tool. And we've spent the last decade implementing that and continuing to test and roll out new ones. And that data comes directly from SSMIS and FSDNet. And so we even included that to say, this system needs to be able to work with, this platform that we've been using with a different vendor right now. And that, I think, that was a tough part of the RFP process, because it feels like maybe no one person knows every connection. I think especially in FSD, where kind of our staff hold so much of the knowledge because of where our systems are at. So, even being able to think through everything, it was very helpful to have folks in ADS be able to say, oh, I work with this project and I know that there's this connection. What about that? And so yeah, that is, I think, a tricky step in the road, but one that we really spent a lot of time on, because that integration between systems is such a key part of this, and what will support, I think, just the easier process flows We also identified, though, this is one where, and I make sure to say it all the time, that like this is one where the price increases anytime we want to add this piece, but we would really love to have some user portals, so essentially external portals. So a parent portal where a parent might be able to log into our system and see some pertinent information about their case, right? Like log in and see next court hearing if they have it, due dates of certain things, maybe some of their case plan is saved right there, right? Things they can have access to. A youth portal. I know that is a huge priority for our OCYFA partners as well as ours, right? Having youth be able to get in and have some access to their information, foster parents, and then to really dream a dream, service providers. And then that way our mental health agencies could maybe have their data feed directly in, as opposed to what so many of, I think, what we all do now is sending spreadsheets to meet the contractual agreements. And if a provider could go into that portal and also have the same information, hey, this kid's next court hearing is this date, right? There'd be obviously, I think, some really tight permissions around all of that, right? So it would be kind of a person by person, but we are dreaming that dream of having those external portals that would allow others to access information much faster than they can right now.
Other questions for Carly, or sort of things that we've heard across these 4 presentations? Systems that we've missed that should have been part of this meeting? Ellen.
Thanks everyone for sharing these processes with us. I think we're all acutely aware of the technical difficulties that come along with trying to build these systems, whether it be capacity or legal policy hurdles that we have to jump through. And I'm wondering if there's a space for us as these processes culminate or contracts are in place to document some of the steps, thinking, protocols, documents, even like RFP documents or scoping documents, or points that you needed to check, boxes that you needed to check before we were even able to get a contractor in place to do this type of work, so that other organizations, agencies, and departments can more easily follow this. I feel like a lot of us are trying to do this modernization and integration work internally in a siloed space when other people are trying to figure out these same things. So if we can have any standard operating procedures or processes for this, that would be fantastic for us to be able to learn from each other and just take a look at that. So that other people can do this either quicker or just have access to all the lessons learned and information that people are learning along the way.
Absolutely, right. It seems straightforward, and Carly, you were mentioning that ADS holds some of this information and is saying like, oh, don't forget about this, I know about this, but how are we sort of taking that, how are we formalizing that process, or figuring out how not relying on the institutional knowledge and understanding, but hopefully making it a little bit more streamlined. And I know ADS is doing a lot of this, right? We've heard about, like, there are concrete steps, and these are not it's not like everybody's starting from scratch, but are there pieces that are not in that workflow that that really could be or should be? Really appreciate that. Others? a quiet group today. Usually this group is go ahead, Carly.
Oh, I know. Like, I think, yeah, we're all right. We're so close to the end of the week, guys. We're so close. I think something, oh, well, I guess first I'll say, Emily, that, like speaking my language at one point recently, I had asked, I think some of our ADS folks, because they had mentioned, oh, this happened on this project and that, and I said, oh, is it possible to like meet with those project people to like hear more about it, so we're not like reinventing that wheel. We didn't get to it more because of capacity, but that's where I was starting to think as well, is like we do have folks who have gone through this throughout our agency, those of us who are kind of within the Agency of Human Services, and how can we tap into some of those experiences to save time on the other end. And I don't have the answer, but I have the excitement around, having that happen. I know for us, something that we had to do, or not, I shouldn't say we had to do. So we chose to really work closely with our federal partners so that we are able to tap into the federal funding that is available for child welfare systems, for new CWIS systems. There's currently a federal match. There has been for a few years now, where our federal government will match what a state raises to put toward their system. So that's, we currently have a little under 8 million from state funds over the last several years. And we are able to draw down that same amount in federal funding. So it's essentially a 50% kind of funding match for systems. We never have known how long that will be on the table. And I think it feels even more precarious now that we haven't heard anything. By doing that, though, it meant that we were also subject to the federal review part of our of a new system, of the RFP. So we have the kind of required Vermont review through the procurement team, which I think can go fairly quickly if you've worked out a lot of the details ahead of time. But the federal review really slowed us down a bit each step of the way, even with as quickly as our technical assistance folks were trying to speed that process along. And it's just because of how many people really had to read it. We would then get feedbacks and make some changes. And so I just note that for others who may be, tapping into federal funding, there might be some additional steps you have to go through to access that or to comply with that. And that could impact your timeline. And so what we've done more recently is adjusted a lot of our presentations if we're sharing to the secretary's office, like our updates. We're always really clear about what federal processes we do and don't have control over and how long they could take, so that we're giving an accurate representation of the overall timeline. I think we could say this is what we would hope if everything goes according to plan, and these are the things that we can't control at all that could make this 2 months longer, because technically, their federal partners have 60 days to review it. So just something to keep in mind for others kind of going through the process, that there might be, additional boxes to check along the way, depending on how you're doing it.
Appreciate that. Yes, and timelines are more extended. So what does that look like? Hey,
Sorry, I came in late. As usual, I was double booked. A meeting jumping. And it might be off topic, but sort of data related and something to think about. So, number one, with some of the federal shifts in FOCI that are happening, I know legal aid is working with our undocumented and documented refugee and immigrant communities to come up with guardianship plans and have stuff in writing in case they get removed and the children are left behind. And I'm not sure exactly how to track, but that's probably data we want to track and know about, just because of the sheer amount of trauma, if nothing else. And the other thing to think about, and I don't know that would necessarily easily apply to children, but it might apply to adults, and I could see how it would apply, but we traditionally hear X, Y, and Z group were not counted because their numbers were too small, so we can't report on them. And I get that, but maybe we need to stop being so paternalistic and ask people to opt in and explain why, versus making a decision for them that, oh, we're just not going to be able to report on your data because there aren't enough of you, and not saying anything. Because I know a lot of us would really happily opt in because we want to be counted. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know much about the legal aid side of things, so I don't know if there are I don't have an answer to that, but I think that it is something especially as we're thinking about parallel programs that exist in the state for undocumented children and families. What does that look like? And in terms of data suppression, it's something that has arisen before that you've brought up, and I think it's so important. And even the other day, we were working on a focus group protocol, and the standard like confidentiality, and we're not gonna like release any identifying information. And I pushed back against that because we are like who's being masked when we are having what was meant to be a protective statement to if that's always the default and we're not having a conversation about it. I think it's important to not have that just be a default without a conversation. I think some of the especially as we're thinking about focus groups as qualitative data is super important. And I think there was a striking comment when we were at Early Childhood Day at the legislature, as we were hearing about a reflection on the State of Vermont's Children report. And somebody was like, the report's great, but the briefing and the panel was really impactful. Like hearing from people about what this actually looks like and what this actually means and how, and the like personal resonance is such a critical piece. And so, again, it's this balance of, federal laws, right, and suppression and privacy and wanting to be able to protect in appropriate ways, but also that it's not just there's a harm caused when we're masking.
Well, there's that piece, and there's that word that comes over and over again, protect. Because it infantilizes adults. Like they cannot decide for themselves what is important. And I think we go into, and I know I've been guilty of it, but we go into this mindset of confidentiality and does federal law really cover this section, or what does it mean here? And it's that piece of it's our knee-jerk standard reaction that everything's going to be here. And I do think it causes harm. It causes a lot of harms.
So please keep bringing it up. And know that it is making a difference, at least in my life. It's making a difference. So we are our agenda is we've had such a rich we have pivoted a little bit and extended our time talking about data systems. I think that we are going to, Morgan was supposed to talk a little bit about next upcoming grand rounds presentations. We have one coming up on Monday about Act 76. which I hope you all will be attending or listening in on after the fact. It will be recorded. But what are the topics and presenters who we should be hearing about in upcoming months? She is off at the legislature. She left at the beginning of this meeting all of a sudden, as is the season. So let's hold on that conversation. If you have thoughts, please send them to me. And we will also continue to have that conversation. But let's spend a little bit of time hearing updates from folks. Emily.
Hi, all. Sorry for talking so much. We have some exciting projects currently in the proposal phase under our PDG funding, pending some funding allocation. But one of the things that I'm excited to highlight is that we might be moving forward with a journey mapping study, which would be very exciting to follow some families through the early childhood system who are struggling with some of our most prominent needs in our state, such as substance use disorder, housing instability, unemployment, and mental health challenges. So trying to map their journey through the system while also collating that with experiences from providers that they're interacting with to really get a better understanding of how families are navigating these complex needs over time and where are those unique barriers to service access, both from the family perspective and the provider perspective. So hopefully that can get off the ground and move forward. We'd be really excited to have that more case level data to be able to really dig into some of these more granular needs and specific needs that these at-risk populations are facing. So, exciting stuff. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Emily. Renee, did I see your hand? Maybe it was an errant baby hand.
No, I just got him asleep, so I'm gonna whisper quietly from the room next door. I guess I was just trying to dig deep about updates and what's happening. I did have the opportunity. I was asked to present at PPD. I think that was last month in February on some workforce data. So slides are available there. I was able to present 2024 workforce data. And we'll also be using that data and rolling that up into the Head Start portion of the CDD workforce report. So that's available there. And then just, kind of a flag for this group that the Collab office will most likely be looking at doing an RFP for a revised wage and fringe study based on some new updated 2024 performance standards, specifically around wages and pay parity with public schools. So no big action on that yet, but something that I think this group could anticipate seeing coming. So.
It's exciting. Thank you for sharing.
I'll share. I think this kind of fits into updates, but I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm ending my position this week for some personal time off, and I'm also making a move. So you won't be getting emails from me. Dora may be coming into your inbox for data requests, but this has just been such a great group to work with and collaborate with, and I think I've just learned so much being able to just collaborate with everyone here. So I really appreciate it and hope this work just keeps moving forward well.
Thanks for all your work, Kitty.
Yeah, thank you and good luck.
Kitty has been such an amazing member of our team, and will be missed, and has set so many sort of foundational pieces in place that her presence will be felt for a long time. Yeah. A couple of other, I feel weird just going on from that, but a couple of other announcements from our team. It's been a really long time, certainly longer than I've been at BBF, since we've re-envisioned what State of Vermont's Children, our report on the State of Vermont's Children has looked like. And maybe you received an email from me this morning. There is a survey that is going out just to, get some information about how people are using it. And we'll also we have a small group of folks coming together, some regional partners, some folks from this group coming together to just have that conversation in real time. And then separately, we'll also be reaching out sort of once we hear back and think a little bit about what the product is going to look like, or how we're going to be sharing information, really connecting with data stewards and policy folks to think about sort of, we've been working on this really tight timeline to make sure that everything can get into the static report. How can we make this a better process sort of all around? And what does that look like for different teams at different times? And, just wanting to be really adaptable to, and not add a lot to the plates that are already overflowing. So I think that if you would take some time to fill out that survey, or if you want to have a meeting, or if you want to attend the focus group, please let me know. And we'll keep you posted as things move forward. Jen.
Speaking of transitions and things like that, so I think everyone knows Let's Grow Kids is sunsetting by the end of 2025. We talked about it, and the year is finally here. We are going to be offboarding our staff in kind of two sets of folks. Some staff will be leaving in July, and the rest of us will be leaving in October. So one of the things that we are actively working on, and will begin having more conversations with partners about, is offboarding our data, our research resources that we've developed over the years, trying to figure out what folks have really appreciated getting from Let's Grow Kids in terms of data and research during our time, and really trying to make sure that all of those things are actively handed off so that nothing falls through the cracks and we don't leave any gaps. So I do not have a lovely survey like BBF has done for the State of Vermont's Children report for you. But if you have thoughts about that, I would love to talk to you more. And right now we are so focused on legislative session that we're just kind of getting through it. I will have some more structure that I'll be putting together and sending out to folks over the next few months, but wanted to preface that since there are a number of months between this conversation and the June meeting. And we have a lot of work to do between now and then. So if you have thoughts, feel free to reach out to me. Would love to hear from you all. And also just a note that I might be sharing something with Dora to potentially send out to this group to really gather people's feedback and make sure that we're covering everything during the months that we have left with you all.
Thanks, Jen. Happy to share. Our June meeting is usually on the third Thursday, but that is Juneteenth. So we will be meeting the week before, June 12th. And we had originally said that this meeting was going to be discussing the update to the strategic plan. The June meeting is currently the plan is to talk about the strategic plan. And in the meantime, we will also be keep your eyes out for an invite to the summit, the strategic plan summit, which will be held in May. We are having some scheduling difficulties with that. But that's our annual taking stock of where things are, and then this year as we're making dates, it's going to be a spicy one. So hopefully. Any other announcements, updates, upcoming surveys, reports?
It's not necessarily data related, but I'll just mention for the sake of the people in this room in case they didn't get the message. We are currently in the process of redetermining all of the child care financial assistance cases in CDDIS so that we can bring them up to the 2025 federal poverty levels. So if anybody was rejected in the past because they were just on the wrong side of the line, we'd encourage them to reapply. And we're hoping that this will bring family shares down for a lot of people. So that should hopefully be done by Monday.
That seems like a huge piece of work. So I'm just going to say that I know nothing about what it takes to do it, but I can imagine that that was a significant lift.
Yeah, there's a lot of prep work that you don't expect going into that, just to make sure it's going to work.
Yeah, well, excited to, I'm sure you all are very excited to be crossing that finish line. I can share quickly, just because I know some of the folks on this call have been connected to our to Family Services Federal Child and Family Services Review, the CFSR. And that happened last year. We had our on-site review where there was a handful of randomly selected cases in specific districts where we reviewed them. We received our findings last September, and since then we've been working with our federal partners on the creation of our program improvement plan, our PIP. All states and jurisdictions are required to have one after the review itself, and that will help kind of guide the next couple of years for family services, some of our priorities, as well as indicate what improvements we need to see to avoid financial penalties. So that we're not through the finish line with that yet either. I think we're probably a couple months away from an approved plan, but we can make sure that is available to folks once we have it, and we will be starting reviews again sometime this year. We anticipate kind of mid to late summer within family services. And I say that because we are always interested in having community partners and providers review with us. So it's an opportunity to sit with an experienced reviewer and essentially walk through an entire case and see what is federally required and sort of take some information on that. So if there are people who are interested in, in being reviewers through part of that process, feel free to reach out to me. We have different districts throughout the state we'll be reviewing for the next several years. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities, but what we know is that when people have engaged in those, they've really appreciated the chance to kind of see more of what this child protection world is like as it relates to the work that Family Services is doing. So like I said, let me know if you're interested, and I'll have a lot more information on that. But it is kind of an opportunity for us to to partner throughout the different divisions, and as well as, like I said, our community partners. We've had guardian ad litems, Easter Seal staff, case reviewers, all kinds of kind of random folks who have participated in that and really found it beneficial. Perfect. All right, I got the. Thanks, Gaia.
Hey folks, sorry to interrupt. I'm Tess, for those of you who have not had the chance to meet. I work for First Children's Finance. I did just want to mention that we, if you saw, conducted the State of Childcare Businesses in Vermont survey, and we got over 200 responses this year. So we're going to be getting a lot of the data out from that. So it should be interesting to see, and we'll probably host a webinar and have some other stuff coming out in the next couple weeks. So just wanted to mention that.
Thanks, Tess. I know last year it was a reach to get to 100, so that's amazing. People and the data that your team collects year over year is some of the most robust quantitative ways that we're monitoring the impact of Act 76. So
For sure, yeah, and
kudos.
we had a lot of great help from our partners, and I think the email from CDD really got us over the edge for getting those responses. So we appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay. We are coming up on time. Any last minute updates? Okay, really appreciate everyone joining, and our presenters, many of whom have had to drop off, but really appreciate this. We will send out notes, and the recording will be up. And if you have announcements in the meantime, or Jen, if you develop a survey, send it along, and we'll get those out soon. Thank you so much for all of your work and for joining.
Thanks, everyone.